I want to share with you a quick tip when working with Claude Code and the ability to bring in additional directories into your project. So I have this Fundamentals of Software Engineering website. If you're not aware of it, you can check it out. It's based on the book me and my friend Nate Shuda wrote, but on here I have a section for podcasts. Now, when it comes to the podcast, we host this on YouTube. We also use a service called Transistor, which I highly recommend. It allows us to basically publish everything in one place and get it out to the different podcast networks. Now, I have been doing this manually on this website. So I go in and I actually create markdown files with the podcast title, the show notes, point to the audio, point to the video, etc. I'm doing this manually. Now, I knew this wasn't going to be a long-term solution. I just wanted to get it up. But Transistor has an API and I want to use that. In fact, I redid the Spring Office Hours website, and this has information about the podcast. Again, this is a live stream and a podcast, but if you go over to episodes or even there on the homepage, you can see a list of those episodes. Those are being brought in by the Transistor API. So I want to use this similar functionality on the Fundamentals of Software Engineering website, but I don't want to go through and duplicate what I've already done, right? I want to learn from the experience that I've done on this project and take it over to that project. Now, I could open up the fundamentals in Claude and ask it to go research the Transistor API and how to do that, but I've already done it and I've done something similar in a project. So what I want to do is just tell Claude about this project and have it learn from that and apply those same things that I've already done there into my existing project. So if you go over to the Claude Code documentation, there is a permission settings. Now you can do this at a project level or at a global level, but I'm just doing it at a project level today. And this is a JSON file, and you can set some things here like what permissions to allow tool use. So I want to allow like bash or web fetch or etc. You can do ask, deny. There's this additional directories. So you can say, hey, I want to add some working directories to this. And this is because when you open up Claude Code in a particular directory, it is sandboxed that directory. That is a good thing. I know that what I'm doing in that project is not going to leak outside of that project. So there are a couple different ways you can do this. As you see during startup, you can just add the directory. During the session, you can call the /add dir command. You can also do this in the additional directories in the settings file. I've done that. Again, you can go down and read through the documentation, but if we go over to this project and I cat out my local settings, you can see down here, I've added an additional directory for Spring Office Hours, the www. So now what I'm going to do is open up Claude, and in this case, I'm going to ask it to reference that other project and build similar functionality here. And how can we do that? I want it to come up with a plan. I always use plan mode first, so we're going to shift tab and until we get to plan mode. And now what I can do is give it a prompt and tell it about this other project and what I want to do here and have it come up with a plan before we do anything. So I'm going to use some voice dictation and dictate the feature or the problem that I wanted to solve. I currently have a feature in this website to list out all of the different podcasts that we publish. Now, the problem is this is currently a manual process. We have to go in and create a markdown file, add the title, the description, the audio link, the video link, etc. And I want to make this more of an automated process. I've given you access to the Spring Office Hours www directory, and in this application, I've implemented a similar feature. I would like you to explore this project and learn how I did it there, and take what you've learned there and bring it over to this project. Come up with a plan to remove the current manual process and move to a more automated process where we read from the Transistor API. Just another tip, I love using dictation. That is WhisperFlow. It is really good at dictation, and when I am trying to work through some things and maybe just talk some things out, I don't want to type that out. This is like me turning to a colleague and telling them what I want to do here. So I've got my prompt. I'm going to go ahead and send it. You should see right away that it's going to get access to that directory because it has access. So I'm going to explore both projects. So it's going to go through and it's exploring the Spring Office Hours Transistor integration, and it's also looking at my project. So we see those two things happening in parallel, which is good. That speeds things up. I just love Claude Code. If you are around this channel, then you know that already, but I'm a big fan of Claude Code, everything that it does. So now it's reading both of those. It's saying, okay, how did we implement it here? How did you implement it there? How can we migrate that feature over here? And how can we improve on the things that we need to do? But again, we're not writing any code. We're just coming up with a plan. I want to look over this plan, make sure I understand what it wants to do here. And if there's any iterations on that plan, I can make them before we write any code. It's much easier to make changes now than it is to just have it go off and start doing things, realize they're wrong, and then have to iterate on that. So this is where I like to do my iteration. Okay, I now have a clear understanding of both implementations. Let me launch a plan agent to design the migration strategy. This is awesome. So it's coming up with a plan to move from manual markdown files to the transistor API. And what I'm hoping to get out of this is not just like, how do we do that thing, right? Like, how do we actually use the transistor API? But what are we going to have to migrate here? We're going to have to remove some markdown files. We're going to have to we're using Nux content here for that strategy. We're probably going to have to remove that feature because we're not using it anymore. I don't want something in my code that we're not using anymore. So those are the things that I'm going to look for when we come up with a plan here. Okay, so there we do have a blog on this site. So the blog also uses Nux content, so we'll keep that module. That's good. I didn't even think about that at first. I forgot we had a blog there because I only have one post up. So it's really intelligent at looking at those things when you kind of direct it that way, right? And that is the reason for creating a plan, because you want to look at the plan, you want to think through it before you just go off and do things. Here's where it gets interesting. It's come up with a plan, but it also has some questions. It didn't just assume things. It has some questions here like, hey, the new episode URLs should be structured this way after migrating to transistor. Do we want to use slug base? Do we keep the numeric IDs? I'd actually rather use slug base, so I like that. If it has any other questions, it'll ask me those as well. So I really like this interaction. Again, having like a pair programmer here. So now we've come up with a plan. And let's go ahead and look through the plan. We're going to replace the manual markdown file management with the transistor API. Files to create. So we're in a Nux project. We need a server. We need a server on this side, a transistor TypeScript file. This is going to be what interacts with the transistor API. So we have server API episodes index to be able to get the index. We want to do pagination. What files are we going to modify? So it is modifying the Nux config. Hey, we need some API keys. So I'm going to have to enter those for this to work. And then we're going to go into app pages, podcast index. And instead of doing this, we're going to basically update it to pull from the server. Then we have a app pages podcast slug. So this is going to be the individual pages. And here are the fields. These are kind of the things I had on the front end. This is how we know we can pull them from transistor. It looks like everything is going to stay intact. So all the functionality I had before will be the same because I was just manually entering it, but now we're pulling it from the API. Some routes are going to change. We want to add some 301 redirects. That's really good. That is something that I would have forgotten about, right? Like we have these current URLs. We want to set up redirects for those. So that was nice to see. We need to add those environment variables. And then we're going to remove the manual markdown files that I've created. And yes, we're going to keep Nux content because it is still needed. Here's the implementation order. Here's the verification order to make sure that everything is working. This looks like a really good plan. I'm happy with it. If I wasn't, I can come in here and basically give it some instructions on what to change. But what I want to do now is clear context and bypass permissions. So this is a new feature to Claude Code. Basically, what we want to do is clear the context. As we start to build context, we have a context window. In the case of Opus, I think it's 200,000 tokens. Once we start getting towards the top of that context window, we come across this thing called context rot, and we start to degrade in performance. So we want to make sure that when we start a new task, we're going to clear the context out. So it's going to clear the context because it has a plan. It doesn't really need any other context. It's done all of the work. we have a plan, we can clear the context, read from that plan, and then execute it. So I'm going to clear context and allow it to do its work. All right, and through the magic of video editing, you didn't have to sit through that, but that was 5 minutes and 42 seconds, which might have taken me 5 hours. So it went through, it did a build, it see that everything passed. Now, I don't know if this is going to work the first time, but I do feel a little bit more confident knowing it had the context of what I was trying to do. And it looked at some code and an implementation that I already have working, and hopefully it got us there. So before we run this, I'm going to go back over to my application here. And if we see the, we have our package.json here, I can run this, but I'm going to need some environment variables here. So I'm going to create a file.env, and I'll need to enter a couple of environment variables here. I believe it said up here, let's go ahead and look for those. Yes, so transistor API key and transistor show ID. So that and transistor show ID. So I know this is Spring, actually, sorry. I know this is fundamentals of software engineering. And then I'm going to take you off screen for a minute here and go ahead and add my API key. All right, and with that, I'm going to start up the dev server. So I'm going to run npm run dev. It looks like it started okay on localhost 3000. So let's go ahead and launch that. All right, and here we go. Here's our app. Here's the moment of truth. We go to podcast. And if we notice there, I only have 3 on here. Because I have not manually added the 4th one, and now we have a 4th one. So it looks like not everything is perfect. We need the description of the show below the title. Do we have the date, the title, a listen, a show notes? Can we go ahead and click on it? Yes, we can. Here are the show notes. There is no YouTube video, but that's okay. We can fix that. Perfect. So now I just have a couple of things that I would fix up, but that is pretty impressive, right? We were able to, oh, and that one pulled over. So maybe we didn't add the video in that 4th one. It is pulling videos over. So that is good to see. We also have this slug URL, which has the episode. I might go ahead and fix that as well. I probably just want a slug there. So we'll go ahead and correct that. But as you can see, this saved me a ton of time. If I were to just ask it to build out this feature in this website without the current context of the other one that I just did, I don't know that I would have gotten the same results as fast as I did, because I know that because I built the feature out in Spring Office Hours using Claude Code. And we had to come up with a plan, and then there were some things not working. I had to iterate on it, and finally I got to the point where it's working. But this could be something that you use in your own organization. I have a problem that I solved over there that I'm trying to do here as well. Instead of asking an agent to go out and learn all of these things and fetch content and grab documentation, it has a boilerplate or a template to work off of when implementing this new feature. I'm a huge fan of Claude Code. There is so much to learn when it comes to Claude Code. I feel a little bit overwhelmed at times. So if you do, don't worry. It's not a big deal. We're just kind of learning these things together. Pick out a feature, run through the docs and say, oh, that looks interesting. I wonder if I could use that somewhere, and just kind of learn over time. And the more things you kind of add to your tool belt, the more proficient you'll be with these tools like Claude Code. Well, hey, I hope you learned something new today. Again, I'm a big fan of Claude Code. If you want to see more Claude Code videos, you want me to dive into a specific feature, let me know and I will do that. Like I said, I had fun learning. I hope you learned something. If you did, you know what to do. Leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and as always, happy coding.